At a time when the cost of transportation, food items have skyrocketed, it came as a shock to Nigerians when the Minister of Power, Adebayo Adelabu, said the country can no longer continue to subsidize electricity as it must move towards a cost-effective tariff model. He noted that the country was in serious debt and state government may now be allowed to independently supply power to their states. Before we bring in our guests via Zoom, let's play you this short video.
It is either we look for money at all costs to fund the subsidy because of the political situation of the country and the hardship people are passing through, or we bite the bullet and everybody understands, okay, let's bring the roof down first. Let's reflect everything on market commercial basis. Then we'll start a rebuilding. Because it is postponing the evil days if we continue anyway. So I am not calling for removal of subsidy before they misquote me. But it's a decision for the entirety of the country to decide. These are assets that we spend the country's money on, and our brothers, part of us, will deliberately sabotage it. So you can see that some people are hiding somewhere that do not want this sector to work.
Well, joining us via Zoom from Abeokuta is a professor of energy and electricity law, University of Lagos, Professor Yemi. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. I'm happy to be with you.
Right. I'm certain you listened to the minister talking about it is important that we either bite the bullet and do what is necessary as it is, or we will be postponing the evil day. Where do you stand with regards to what the minister has said?
I'm happy the Honorable Minister of Power, my good friend, Adebayo Adelabu, is now saying the obvious. It's not a conversation that started today. It's a conversation I've been championing for decades. And it's a cause that is in the interest of Nigeria and Nigerians. It's got nothing to do with the Tinubu administration. My take, my view, for more than a decade, 15 years plus, was that the power sector is needlessly subsidized. And I challenged the law, I challenged the people in charge. I came up with information, credible information that nobody before. I said there is too much subsidy in the entirety of the energy sector. The first subsidy in the petroleum sector was wrongly channeled. We needed to address it. And I said, unknown to a lot of Nigerians, that government is also needlessly, heavily subsidizing the power sector. And to me, I said, there's no point, Nigerians, the subsidy power sector is displaced because Nigerians are not getting power. So government has been using public money to subsidize darkness because the subsidy in the power sector has not really been of any essence to the generality of Nigerians or industries that have been folding up, relying on this. As a person, and I said again, let's leave this administration out of it. We need to look ourselves face to face as Nigerians and tell ourselves bitter, simple truth because this country must progress. This is a time for Nigerians and Nigeria as a country and its leadership to start to take certain difficult decisions. If and only if we want the best for our country. I'm going back to the subsidy power sector. Under the old act, which I had a lot of problems with, which I'm glad most of my issues with the old law have been addressed in the new electricity act signed by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in 2023, as soon as he got into power. Under the old power sector, electric power sector reform act, I said that was not a law meant to operationalize the power sector. By its name, the law was merely intended to bring about reforms in the power sector. It was a reformative law. I said now we needed a new law to operationalize the power sector. As bad as the old law of 2005 was, so, and as I said, 80% of my issues have been taken care of because there were well over 200 plus errors in the old law. The new law is not perfect, but it's a piece of document that we can start to use to operationalize the power sector. In the old law repeal, there was provision for PCAF, Power Consumer Assistance Fund. And that said, when they were increasing tariffs, said you shouldn't have increased tariffs without putting PCAF in place. So if you are going to subsidize, subsidy for the power sector should go directly to PCAF because PCAF is the only institutional framework, institutional structure put in the law to ensure subsidy gets to eligible Nigerians, poor Nigerians. If that is the supply, is another thing. So the PCAF framework is a law that puts money in the hands of Nigerians to be able to afford consumption of electricity in case tariff is jacked up. That PCAF was not put in place in the old law. Yet we have tariff adjustment. I use tariff adjustment because tariff adjustment is what we ought to have, not always an increase. The talk of tariff adjustment is either goes north or south, meaning tariff will actually come down. That's story for another day. In the new law that we have PCAF in place. As we speak, there's no money in the PCAF framework to subsidize eligible Nigerians. It's for Nigerians who can't afford appropriate rate of electricity. And I have a problem with that. Let me not give you the mathematics of wasteful subsidies we find in the power sector. I don't have electricity myself, and I'm not sure you have your station because I guess you guys be on diesel. I've been to the head office of a disco for a kind of thought, and they were on diesel. So it's not something we are holding it together as a nation. Let me not go into this. Nigerian government was subsidizing power sector at the level of production, meaning generation. For instance, Nigeria has been subsidizing power sector for the 4,000 whatever megawatt that is generated, so that those who are generating provide gas in particular can continue to be in business. By the time government subsidizes 4,005 thereabout megawatts, the actual megawatts that get to the consumers, you and I, will be less than 2,000 or slightly above 2,000 megawatts. Meaning, government has subsidized big guys, corporate entities, rich people to produce something, and the actual production, the actual megawatt that get you and I is about the half of this of the generation. So, and I say government should first and foremost stop this wasteful subsidy. If they must subsidize, they should subsidize consumption. As it's done in the UK, you go to look at their bills, you go to see the amount, the exact amount of subsidy that government is giving to consumers, eligible consumers. In this case, we are subsidizing production. We are not talking of production losses. We are not talking of transmission losses. We are not talking of collection losses by the biscuits, by the gentles. And government is putting money in their hands, and they will never be efficient or effective to reduce their costs because government has given them money to be wasteful. And we can't sincerely afford doing that as a country. This is our country. We are Nigerians. We are not states here.
All right. I
can't sit down with respect for whoever is involved, encouraging government to be subsidizing rich people. That pickup is not in place.
Professor, okay, we need to quickly go on a break. When we return, we'll continue with this conversation. Just stay with us.
We don't like to eat better, more nutritious meals, more veggies, but we want it tasty and easy too. No cubes. That's the secret. Made with real ingredients like chicken, parsley, and garlic. And enriched with iron, so your meals are better for you and more delicious too. That's the cocoa. Let's give it some accolades. Change your world by changing what's on your plate.
Ready for school? Yes! My champs, they use energy at school. I know, because imagine the energy they may have used up to return home distransformed every day.
Your champs need nourishing energy. Give them the new and improved Milo at breakfast.
It has nutrients that support energy release to help champs get the most out of their active days. Milo!
Thank you for staying with us. Before we went on the break, we were looking at the matter of the removal of subsidy on electricity that the government spoke about sometime last week, and there's been divergent reactions to that statement coming from the minister. And we had speaking with us before we went on the break from Abeokuta, Professor of Energy and Electricity Law, University of Lagos, Professor Yemi, talking to us about how important it is for government to actually remove electricity subsidy. But quickly, my colleague Ibrahim Shita wants to ask a question. Right.
Yes, it's quite interesting. Before the break, you were talking about the fact that the federal government is subsidizing the rich, mainly. But it is, do you not feel that the problem today is that the large industrial consumers of power are off the grid due to the fact that they are not able to get adequate power supply, and then they actually sought different, they sought alternative means of generating power to run their businesses and all of that. And the fact that we have poor electricity supply also had affected, businesses, which have actually folded up. So is that not a way that you think that the government or the electricity company can bring them back so that the money they generate from them will help liquidity, and then the government can use this money to subsidize the residential consumers? What do you think?
Thank you for that question. The problem of the power sector is much more entrenched than what the image you just painted is challenging and it's deep, because we've not been doing the right thing as a country, and we predicted this, that hey, I hope, if you check most of my video clips and my papers, I will almost put myself first. I say, this power sector will collapse on all of us, myself inclusive, so we are in it together. When industries are falling off, it's because government continues to subsidize generation and the industries are not getting power to power their industries. Small-scale industries and entrepreneurs are falling off, getting frustrated, because despite the fact that there is subsidy at the entry level of generation in the power sector, they are not getting it. That means the subsidy being given by government goes to waste. And I know well enough about the power sector to look at anybody highball and tell them, because they know I know. So I don't want them to challenge me anywhere. They know I know. And we predicted it. We predicted it when power sector was privatized as a political patronage. I kept saying the former president only acknowledged our position few months to the end of that position. And the former President Buhari actually said power sector was privatized as a political patronage, because those who brought it had no means in terms of finances, in terms of technology. Second point, we said when power sector was privatized and some plus Nigerians were accessing Nigerian banks to borrow money just to acquire those entities. And I said some banks are going to fail. After 4 banks failed as a result of the exposure to the power sector. I'm not a correct. Even for bit collapse, we said we continue to have an average of 10 to 12 bit collapses per year. It's continuing. We have not done right. there are things we ought to do. When I talk about certain issues, I mean challenges, I put on the table my own views as a suggestion. Because I don't just I bring on board critical views. I don't criticize really, it's needless. I bring about critical views and I put my own views, which is more sacrosanct. I might be wrong, I might be right. We are in this national discourse to get our country working. The federal government, by way of solution, I insist, must go around must ensure another round of reacquisition and refinancing in the power sector before we get started, so that the entity, the sector can be properly structured. And I said we have incompetent regulators because it has to be knowledge-based regulation. Once the government privatizes, the job of government is to effectively regulate, because you can't do anything. You have to seriously regulate so that things can go on. But we've not been having effective regulation. Another issue, it has to be knowledge-based regulation. It has to be who knows enough about the laws and regulation of the sector to get it going. That is the engineering aspect of it for the technical people. But when you talk of regulation, that's a bit of regulatory and law thing. Must get somebody there to do the right thing, applying the laws, get things going. So, we can't continue this wasteful subsidy, because the intendment of the law is to give subsidy to eligible Nigerians who cannot afford paying commercial electricity rates. We have pickup that was in the old law and in the new law that ought to be in place. So pickup must be in place. There are a lot of things to do. As a government needs to justify on its own to put in place measures to ensure the debt of ministries, agencies, and parastatals to the discos are paid, so that the discos can pay the gencos and bring about a bit of liquidity in the system. Government can agree a phased repayment of debt to the gencos and completely get done away with this wasteful subsidy and put pickup in place, so that poor people who actually need subsidy can get their subsidy based on the actual megawatts that get to their tables, not what is generated and lossy and a bit of loss at the transmission and generation, which government has been paying for. Embed has no place in government. Why? The Nigerian Bulk Electricity Trading Company was an interim measure, the bulk purchaser, put in place to buy and to encourage generating companies to generate electricity and assure them of a right market, and more people can pay. That's why the subsidy comes in. Otherwise, there will be no incentive for them to generate. That is why Nigeria is usually exposed. Most of the debt had to do with gas. And I said we need to appropriately price gas. Though under the Petroleum Industry Act, we have gas domestic obligation. But we're just kidding here, because gas is an international commodity. An average gas producer will produce gas and sell in the international market because it's hot cake. So there must be incentive for gas production for domestic use, which may bring down the cost of electricity. Two, we must ensure it's only meter manufacturers that are in charge of metering and calibrate in consonance with discos, so that Nigerians can modulate their electricity consumption. If they are going to jack up electricity tariff from 2 naira to 5 naira, Nigerians must have the right to now control their pattern of consumption, so that those who have been consuming 4 hours of electricity may decide to now consume 2 hours because of the tariff, but imposing it on Nigerians to pay for electricity that they not consume is criminal. Nigerians also must pay for electricity consumed. So I always say it is illegal to consume electricity and not pay. It is criminal to pay for electricity that you have not paid. So it all boils down to regulation, including the Transition Company of Nigeria, the GENCOs and DISCOs. They are all regulated entities. If somebody is regulating them, how come you're having these challenges?
That's the big question.
The national discourse on power is something that will continue, but then it must start to take, as I said, Nigeria must start to take some difficult decisions, because it must get this country work.
You just asked a question that a majority of Nigerians are asking if all of these persons are being regulated, why are we still facing these kinds of challenges that we are facing as it is at this point? Why are we still witnessing the level of darkness that we are seeing? If you look at the papers this morning, Nigeria is just generating a little above 3,000 megawatts, and it's a matter of load shedding, and that's what we are seeing. And then we have this huge deposit of gas. What really is the challenge? How we know that now we have, you have said it is important that we begin to look at removing subsidy with regards to electricity. But with that, really address the challenge that we have faced over the years, because even the minister said that there are those who do not want the sector to work. With this decision by government, make that sector work effectively.
Well, I hear you correctly. Let me say something. Nigeria is spending more now in a supposedly privatized power sector. It makes sense. After 10 years, government is now still spending more. That's why the fact that we have privatized. Once you privatize, the only thing you can reasonably do is to ensure serious, conscientious, patriotic, knowledge-based regulation by those who know. Those who have conscience and not their conscience insist on the right thing. If we start to do the right thing in the power sector and other sectors in the country anyway, this country will be on autopilot in terms of progress. The minister was just expressing his frustration that he felt some people gathered somewhere to make sure the power sector doesn't work. I don't share that view. If people gather somewhere and they are saying the power sector wouldn't work, the police men of the power sector is the regulator. Go and dislodge them, trash them off. How can a group of mindless Nigerians gather somewhere and frustrating well over 200 million of us, saying it will not work, saying we will continue to be in darkness? That is why I'm an advocate of the removal of subsidy in the power sector. Why? Because Nigerians have been subsidizing darkness. Why would government continue to subsidize darkness? Because Nigerians are not getting electricity. That's why the subsidy. So it's needless. It's of no moment. It's of no help to the people. Under the petroleum sector, that is subsidized, and you have petrol at the filling station. Now they are subsidizing electricity, and we are not getting electricity. And somebody is good conscience is telling the government of Prof. Tinubu to continue with space for subsidies in the power sector, despite the fact that we have kicked, Yemi, I have kicked against it 18 years ago. We need to start taking serious, difficult decisions as a country in the power sector, in the petroleum sector, in the gas sector, the security sector, in the education sector, in every sector. No, the government will not be doing me a favor by subsidizing electricity for me, and I'm not getting it. Nobody is happy. Subsidy is wasteful, it's needless.
But there are concerns that at this time that Nigerians are still reeling from the impact of fuel subsidy removal. It is not the right step to take.
So let me explain this. Power sector is different from the petroleum sector. If government continues to subsidize inefficiency, it means those companies, those who ought to do the right thing, will not be incentivized to do the right thing. If you subsidize, it means you want Nigerians to have the product. You have been subsidizing. And Nigerians having electricity since you've been subsidizing. Is the answer yes? No. So, meaning, darkness is what is being subsidized. I will support a subsidy that brings electricity to the homes and offices of Nigerians. And if there are problems in the sector, let's sit down and take some difficult decisions. This country must work now, going forward. That's what I'm saying. I know these folks, and they know me. Nobody is scared of anybody. The regulator needs to regulate standing seriously. Things will change. Then government can sit back, talk to its advisors and experts as to now this money has been used for subsidize. Let me channel it to something that will not benefit Nigerians. It doesn't mean the price of electricity will increase if that subsidy is removed. It will only bring about efficiency so that even if government is supplying subsidy through pickup, that's the only institutional structure for subsidy in power sector.
But then that's quite much like a far cry. Sorry to butt in, because if you look at over the years, the price of electricity tariff has been increasing over the years. For instance, the foreign exchange used to determine the tariff in 2015 was 198 naira 97 kobo to the dollar, then 383 to 80 used in 2020, 2022 441, and on and on. Now we don't know how they are going to benchmark this. But over the years, we have been paying for darkness, just like you said. The higher the increase, the more the darkness we get. So what efficiency are you anticipating?
You know why? You want me to tell you the reason?
Carry on.
Thank you. When they privatize these entities into wrong hands, essentially, dollar was 160 to 166. These entities bought assets in dollars. They borrowed money in dollars, and they will be operating to serve Nigerian homes and offices in naira. They expose themselves by grabbing dollars for what we call acquisition financing, which affected some banks, and we think that was going to be risky. So when dollar started going up north, it was difficult for them to keep adjusting tariffs to keep up with the pace of dollars. You have a dollarized loan for services to be produced and billed for in naira. Somebody was regulating something ought to have been done. Something was done wrongly. Two, Nigeria is more of a gas country. Nigeria even is sitting on gas more than crude oil. When you are going to do that, you not sufficiently work out your mathematics to ensure that you have enough gas, because gas is what is used essentially to power the power sector. Is it that Nigeria no longer have gas in Nigeria, or that we are not harnessing our gas potentials to power of the industry? By the way, is it only from gas and nitrogen that we can generate electricity? Electricity that is even generated from the forest in some countries through diffusion technology, through renewables, through sunshine, through all sources.
All right.
So electricity is natural. So we need to do a lot more.
All right.
For me, I am insisting, my view though, Nigerians have not been having benefit of the so-called subsidy in the power sector because it was not put in PCAF, Power Consumer Assistance Fund, which will be plugged directly into the electricity bills.
And that's a fine place to leave the conversation. Professor Yemi Oke, Professor of Energy and Electricity Law, University of Lagos. Thank you so much for your time on the program.
Thanks for having me. God bless Nigeria.